In this second example, we will create clickable buttons in PowerPoint and layer in text boxes to go with each button. I'm going to show you two ways to do this in PowerPoint. The first way is using animations, and the second way is by adding additional slides to your presentation. First, this is what the outcome will look like if you create this interaction using animations. So here's our slide right here, and we have 3 buttons, and you can see the little hand pop up, meaning that I can click on these to show different things. So when I click on button 1, we see text 1, so this will be some text that you wanted to show, and button 1 changes color. And when I click on button 2 changes color, and we see text 2 here. And when I click on button 3 changes color and text 3 shows. And you notice too, when these buttons change color, the other ones change back to blue. So that's another thing we have to do as well. All right, so this is how you do this. Let's go to this slide here, a blank slide, so I can show you in real time. So first, you should start by creating your buttons. So go to Insert up here and go to Shapes. I chose this rounded rectangle, but you can choose whatever you want. So I'm just going to make that a certain size, let's say like that. And then I'm going to label it button 1. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm going to copy this for button 2 and 3. And I'm just going to leave it the default blue color, but you can change it to whatever color you want. And you can also change the button, put different styles on it and things, but just for this example, I'm just going to keep everything the same as the defaults. Okay, so now I'm just going to line these up a little bit better. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so there we have the 3 buttons. Okay, so now let's create the text boxes that are going to appear beside it. So go up to Insert again, and then go to Text Box, and just type text 1. And then I just enter down a bit just because I wanted to make it bigger so it can be seen. And let's also just add a border around this as well. We don't really need to line it up right now because I'll show you we'll do that at the end. Let's see, let's go up to Format and just add any border here. Actually, we could make it white, I guess, but let's just go to Shape Outline and I'll just make a black border there. There we go, like that. Now I'm going to copy this to make text 2 and text 3. And I'm just going to separate these out a bit and change the numbers. Just so that we can see them. So when we do the final thing, we will place them on top of each other, but just so you can see them for building the animation, it's much easier to do it this way. Okay, so now let's go to the animation tab here and just make sure our animation pane's there. Yep, it was already there from the last time. So here it is. And let's add on button 1 an emphasis animation. So go up here to add animation and go to the yellow ones, and we're going to pick fill color. And you can see here it's already doing something that's already defaulted, but we're going to change that. So go over to the animation pane and go to Effect Options. And in this dialog box, select a different color. Like, I didn't want to select orange, maybe it was just me, but I like this purple, so I'm going to select that. But if you want to stick with the orange, that's fine. And then in the style here, we don't want it to kind of fade through like a rainbow of colors. Well, for this, we just want it to kind of just change like right away. So select the top one here, whatever color you chose. So it's just going to be this purple. And then for timing, make sure that this happens on click. And we then go down to the triggers here, and you want it to start on the click of, now this is a little hard to read sometimes because they don't actually, sometimes it cuts off, but if you know you had 3 buttons here, it's going to be your rounded rectangle or whatever button number, this 3rd one here, and then this 4th one is the 2nd one, and this is the 3rd. So we'll choose this and then click OK. So that's the one that's going to be affected. So now let's just go preview that just so you can see the button change color. So when we click on it, it turns to purple. All right, so let's repeat this emphasis animation for button 2 and 3. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Fill color. And it's up here, right here, the one that's highlighted. And then go to Effect Options and change this to the purple. And then go to Timing. And this time we want to make sure it starts on the click of the 2nd one, which is going to be this 2nd rectangle here. See, it shows you a little preview there. And then for button 3, do the same thing. Change that to purple or whatever color you want. Go to Timing and then go to Triggers. Start on click of the 3rd one. Okay, now let's just go preview that, make sure that's correct. And if you mess it up, like just go back and pick another trigger if you click the wrong one. It's a lot of like trial and error. You have to kind of try it out and then preview, try it, preview. So button 1 changes, button 2, button 3. But now as you can see, they all change purple, and we don't really want that. We want, once you click the 2nd one, this one to go back to blue. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is a little tricky sometimes to think in your mind, but the way I do it is I say, okay, I'm focusing on here, clicking button 1. And when button 1 changes to purple, I want button 2 and 3 to be blue. Now, since this is the first one, you don't really have to do it, but I just do it just because I want to keep everything kind of the same. And it is the one drawback of this example, this way, is that it's not easy to kind of make these make it so that you can click on these in any order. So that's why I'm showing you a second way that we'll do after, so that you can see that you can jump around to the buttons. So let's just get back here. So when this button changes to purple, I want button 2 and 3 to stay blue. So we have to add animations to button 2 and 3. Now we can't just go up to this kind of this area here to select it, because this would mean we wanted to change this animation, this one here that's already highlighted, and you can see it over here, to a different one. So you actually have to make sure you go over to the Add Animation drop down here, because then it will add a second animation onto that. So I'm going to go to Fill Color, and then I'm going to change that, open the effect options and change that to the blue. So we'll stay with the blue color. And this is where it might get a little tricky in your head, but the timing of this, so if you look at the timing, the trigger is going to be on click of button 1 though, which is this rectangle rounded corners 3 here in PowerPoint labeling. So we're going to click that. So that's actually button 1. So when button 1 is clicked, this will remain blue. That's what this makes sure. And then, so then you see it moved underneath that trigger. We want to make sure it will start with previous, because we want it to start when button 1 is clicked. So we're not clicking to make this happen on button 2, we're clicking on button 1 to make these remain blue. Okay, so we're going to repeat that for button 3. So on button 3, we go to Add Animation, go to Fill Color, and then go to Effect Options and change that to blue. and then go to timing and make sure your trigger is button 1 right here. So yours may be labeled a little different than mine. PowerPoint labels it depending on what you have already created in your presentation. So just make sure you know which one is your button 1. Okay, and you can also see over here, it'll show you how many animations are on each object. So right now we have one animation on here to change it to purple, and then we have a purple one on that for later when we click on it, and also a blue animation as well. So I'm not going to preview that right now because you won't really see the effects because these are already blue for that one. But when we do the button 2 one, I'll show you what happens when you do both of those. So now we go to button 2. And when we click button 2, this is going to change to purple. And so we want button 1 that we just clicked to change back to blue. So we're going to add an animation to button 1 like we just did for the others. So go to add animation, go to fill color, and change that. Go to effect options and change that to blue. Then go to timing. And so the trigger for this one is going to be when button 2 is clicked, button 1 changes back to blue. So that's my number 4 here. And then the last step, make sure it starts with previous. And I think I just forgot to do that on this one here, the third one. So just go fix that. Okay, there. So now we have button 1 is clicked, button 2 and 3 stay blue at the same time, start with previous. And when button 2 is clicked, button 1 changes back to blue. So let's put another animation on button 3 now to make sure it stays blue when button 2 is clicked. So the same thing, add animation, go to fill color, go to effect options, choose blue, choose solid blue, timing. So this again is when button 2 is clicked. And then make sure it starts with previous. There. Now I'm going to save so I don't lose this. Okay, and then I'm going to go preview this so you can see button 1 and 2. So when I click button 1, it goes purple. When I click button 2, it goes purple, and those went back to blue. So now let's repeat this for button 3. So when button 3 is clicked, okay, button 2 we want to change back to blue, and button 1 we want to remain blue. So I'm going to add an animation to button 1 here. And I'm going to make that blue. So a lot of repetitive actions once you get the hang of what you're doing. And this is when button 3 is clicked. So that's my number 5 here in PowerPoint labeling. Okay, and then just make sure over here that it starts with previous. And then button 2, we're going to add another animation. Fill color. Go to effect options, make sure that's blue. Go to timing, and the trigger is button 3. And then start with previous. All right, I'll just save that. And let's preview those buttons and see how they work. So when button 1 is clicked, change to purple. Button 2 is clicked, change to purple, those go to blue. And button 3 is clicked, changes to purple, and those go back to blue. So we're almost done. Now we got to make these text boxes appear at the same time. So to do that, we're going to select text 1 here, and I'm just going to have it fade. So I'm going to choose one of these ones up here just because it's quicker for this. All right, so that fades in. Now, when do we want it to fade in? Well, now we go over to the effect options, right? So we want it to fade in when button 1 is clicked. So we have to go to triggers here and go to number 3 right there. And then we have to, so now it's underneath this group here, but because it has a number here, it means that it's going to start on click, but we don't want that. We want it to start with previous. Okay. And then and then text 2, we want it to appear when button 2 is clicked. So let's do the same thing. We'll have it fade in. Go over to effect options. So we want to have it happen when button 2 is clicked. And then text 3. Oh, one more thing. Just make sure it's starting with previous here. There we go. So under that rectangle group, when that button is clicked, text 2 appears, and those change back to blue, and this changes to purple. And then text 3. Have it fade in. And then for timing, the trigger will be button 3, which is my number 5 here. And then make sure it starts with previous. Okay, so let's just go preview that. We're not quite done, but just to see. So button 1, text 1. Button 2, text 2. Button 3, text 3. So now you can see that all texts are appearing and they're just kind of overlapping each other, but we don't really want that because normally we might have like some bullet points or a paragraph, so we don't want that to happen. So let's go back here, and what we're going to have to do is something similar to what we did here with the buttons. So when text 1 appears, that's okay. We don't really need anything else there because there's nothing else before that. When text 2 appears, we want text 1 to disappear. So we need to add an exit animation to text 1. All right, so we'll just go up to here to add animation, go to the red ones here and have it fade out. And when do we want it to fade out? So then we go over here to the animation pane, go to effect options. We want text 1 to fade out when button 2 is clicked. So we go to triggers. And then here this is my button 2, right there. So let's just go preview that. So button 1, text 1, button 2, text 2. Oh, something didn't work. That happened, so let's go see what happened. Oh, see, we had it not starting with previous, so because there's a number there and it's starting on click. So we gotta say start with previous. All right, let's go re-preview that. Button 1, text 1, button 2, text 2, and there text 1 disappeared. So now we do a similar thing with text 3. So when text 3 appears, we want text 2 to disappear. So make sure you're selecting text 2, go to add animation, go to fade out, go to your effect options, and then triggers. So text 2 is going to disappear when text 3 comes in with button 3. So your trigger is going to be button 3. And you can also change the how it starts up here. So you see it says on click. We can change that right here to with previous, so we don't have to do what I did. It's probably easier. There. All right, let's preview this. So button 1, text 1. Button 2, text 2, and text 1 disappears. Button 3, text 3, and text 2 disappears. So we're almost done. So now we want them to start on top of each other, just so that they look like they appear on the same spot. I think it looks nicer, and it also I don't know. I just think it looks better that way, but it's up to you. If you want to have it do this, that's fine because they're disappearing now, so it's not on top of each other. So the way I do this is I go and right click on this first text box or whichever one that I like the position of, and I go to Format Shape, and then I go over here to Position, and then you can see the horizontal position and vertical position, and I either write these down or memorize them. So it's 4.12 and 2.37, 4.12, 2.37. And then I go to text 2 here and I make it the same. And what was the other one? Now I gotta go back. 2.37. Okay, so then I go to text 2, change it to 2.37. And then we do the same thing for text 3. 4.12. And 2.37. There, so they should be all exactly on top of each other. I find this is a little bit easier than trying to just kind of move it around with the mouse. And I'm just going to save. And now let's preview that. Button 1, text 1, changes color. Button 2, text 2, changes color. And button 3, text 3, changes color. All right, so excellent. Now you can see that they appear at the same location for each click of the mouse. So the only drawback of this method is that you can't easily set it up so that you can click back and forth on each button. You can only do the sequence once, unless you reset the slide by exiting out of the presentation. But I still do like using this method to create clickable buttons when I'm the one presenting the slide to the audience. So our next example is the same example as this one, but I'm going to show you how to do this using extra slides in your presentation, which makes it so that you can click on any button and show the text multiple times. So you'd be able to move back and forth here and show the text again.